Earlier today, the U.S. Navy seized an Iranian ship near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has vowed to retaliate, and the next 48 hours may be the most dangerous of the entire conflict. This isn't another escalation. It's a category change. Seizing a foreign state's vessel is one of the oldest triggers of war under international law. Iran has multiple response options. Every single one escalates. A new round of talks is scheduled for Monday in Islamabad. Trump's warning was 3 words. No more Mr. Nice Guy. The window for de-escalation is now measured in hours. If you scrolled past this headline today, you missed the story. Because this is the moment a slow-burning conflict may have just crossed into something else entirely. U.S. forces seized an Iranian-flagged vessel in contested waters near the Strait of Hormuz earlier this morning. Tehran has publicly vowed retaliation. Within hours, Trump confirmed a new round of negotiations scheduled for Monday in Islamabad. And the language shifted. He didn't speak about diplomacy. He didn't speak about partners. He said, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." That phrase is not accidental. It signals an ultimatum, not an offer. This action follows weeks of failed ceasefire attempts, a partial blockade, and a long string of incremental escalations that most of the world has stopped tracking. But this one is different. The seizure is the first direct action against Iranian state property since the war began. Until today, both sides had observed an unspoken line. That line is now broken. But the significance isn't what the U.S. did. It's what seizing a foreign ship has historically meant. Seizing a foreign state's vessel is one of the oldest casus belli in international law. The phrase itself dates back centuries. It refers to an action so severe that it justifies war. And ship seizures sit at the very top of that list. The reason is simple. A flagged vessel is sovereign territory. To take it is to take a piece of the nation itself. The historical record is not subtle. In 1941, the United States froze Japanese assets and imposed an oil embargo. That action did not directly seize ships, but it cut off the lifeblood of an island nation. Pearl Harbor followed within 4 months. The embargo was the moment the war became inevitable. Every Japanese strategist understood that without oil, surrender was the only alternative to attack. They chose attack. In 1807, a British warship called the Leopard intercepted the American frigate Chesapeake off the coast of Virginia. British sailors boarded the ship and seized 4 American crewmen. The United States did not declare war immediately, but that incident set the stage for the War of 1812. A boarding, a seizure. 5 years later, war. In 1975, Cambodian forces seized the American container ship Mayaguez in the Gulf of Thailand. Within 72 hours, the United States launched a full military rescue operation. Marines died. Cambodian forces died. The seizure was the spark. The military response was immediate and absolute. Go further back. In 1898, the USS Maine exploded in Havana Harbor under contested circumstances. Within months, the United States was at war with Spain. The vessel itself was the trigger, regardless of who was actually responsible for the explosion. The pattern is consistent across centuries. Ships are sovereign. Their loss demands answer. In each of these cases, the seizure itself wasn't the war, but it was the moment that made war inevitable. Nations cannot allow their flagged vessels to be taken without losing sovereignty in the eyes of the world. Once a precedent is set, every adversary recalculates. Every partner reassesses. The cost of inaction becomes higher than the cost of escalation. Iran now faces exactly that calculation. And the regime that backs down here loses something it cannot recover. And this is where the response options get terrifying. Iran cannot match the U.S. Navy ship for ship. The American Fifth Fleet is one of the most capable naval forces in human history. Iran knows this. Iran has always known this. And so for 40 years, Iran has built something different. Iran has built an asymmetric warfare doctrine specifically designed for this moment. Option 1. Mines. Iran has already mined sections of the Strait of Hormuz in past escalations. More can be deployed in hours. Naval mines are cheap, plentiful, and devastating to commercial shipping. A single mine strike on a tanker can shut down an entire shipping lane for days. Option 2. Proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon. Iraqi Shia militias in Baghdad and Basra. Houthi forces in Yemen. All armed by Iran. All trained by the IRGC Quds Force. All capable of striking on command. These are not loose affiliates. They are tools. And Iran has spent decades placing them inside the kill chain. Option 3. Missiles. Iran has one of the largest ballistic missile arsenals in the region. In 2019, a single coordinated drone and missile strike took half of Saudi Arabia's oil production offline within minutes. The Abqaiq attack was a demonstration. It told every analyst what Iran could do if it wanted to. Option 4. Cyber. Iranian state hackers have previously targeted American water systems, financial networks, and energy grids. The capability is real. The access is documented. And cyber escalation does not require Iran to fire a single missile. Option 5. Small boats. The IRGC Navy specializes in swarm attacks, fast attack craft, suicide drones at sea, tactics designed to overwhelm a single warship at close range. The U.S. Navy has trained against these scenarios for years, but training does not prevent damage. It only limits it. There is also a sixth option less discussed. Iran controls the timing. Iran can hold its retaliation for days, weeks, even months. The longer it waits, the harder it becomes for the United States to maintain a heightened defensive posture across every potential target. Vigilance fatigues. Doctrine cycles. Iran has used this patience before. 5 categories. 5 doctrines. All ready. All rehearsed. The American military is prepared for every one of them. But being prepared does not prevent the strike. It only contains the consequences. And the consequences of a serious Iranian retaliation cannot be fully contained, no matter how prepared the response. And this is why Monday's talks are now the most important 48 hours of the entire war. Oil prices pushed above $100 per barrel within hours of the news breaking. Asian markets opened rattled. Japan, South Korea, and India are all heavily dependent on Gulf oil flows. Their economies cannot absorb a sustained disruption. Shipping insurance for Persian Gulf routes, already elevated for months, spiked again overnight. Tanker traffic through the strait is slowing as operators wait for clarity. Every additional day of restricted flow adds billions to global supply chain costs. Container rates rise. Charter rates rise. Refining margins compress. The American consumer will feel this within 2 to 3 weeks. First at the pump, then in everything that oil touches. Plastics, fertilizer, shipping, food. This is not a forecast. This is mechanical. It happens every time the strait is threatened. The only variable is how long the threat lasts. But the economic shock is only the first layer. The second layer is geopolitical. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are publicly silent. Privately, they are terrified. A wider war means their oil infrastructure becomes a primary target. They lived through the archaic attacks of 2019. They remember what one coordinated strike did to their production. They are not eager to repeat it. Israel is watching for any opening to strike Iranian nuclear facilities it has long considered targets. Israeli leadership has signaled for years that the window for a preemptive strike is closing. A wider conflict creates the cover they need. China imports roughly 40% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Beijing has signaled, through unofficial channels, that it will not accept a prolonged disruption. China has economic leverage over Iran that no other nation has. Whether it chooses to use that leverage in the next 48 hours is one of the largest unknowns in this crisis. Russia, publicly neutral, is quietly supplying Iran with diplomatic cover, satellite intelligence, and dual-use technology. Moscow benefits from any disruption that pulls American attention back to the Middle East and away from Eastern Europe. Russia has no incentive to de-escalate. Europe is once again on the sidelines. Dependent on American military dominance for energy security it cannot guarantee itself. European capitals are calling for restraint, but no European nation has the leverage to enforce restraint on either side. Every ally has a different red line. Today's seizure pushed each of those lines closer. If this is the kind of hidden system most people never see, consider subscribing. We break these down every week. And this is why the Monday talks are no longer a negotiation. Trump's language tells you everything. No more Mr. Nice Guy. That is not the language of compromise. That is the language of an ultimatum. The United States is presenting a list of demands. Full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Verifiable halt to nuclear enrichment. End to proxy attacks across the region. Withdrawal of IRGC support for Hezbollah and the Houthis. Iran has publicly rejected each of these terms multiple times. Some of them are existential to the Iranian regime. The proxy network is not a foreign policy tool. It is the regime's primary deterrent. Asking Iran to dismantle it is asking Iran to dismantle its own survival doctrine. The seizure raises the stakes for Iran. Either accept terms it has already rejected, or retaliate publicly. There is no middle path anymore. There is no quiet de-escalation. There is no face-saving exit. The 48 hours between today's seizure and Monday's talks are the window in which war is either averted or begun. And the historical record on windows like this one is not encouraging. And the final layer is the one nobody wants to talk about. Ayatollah Khamenei was assassinated 7 weeks ago in the opening phase of the war. His body has not yet been buried. Iranian state media has offered conflicting explanations. The most credible reporting suggests Iranian officials fear the power vacuum a state funeral would expose. As long as there is no funeral, there is no formal succession. As long as there is no formal succession, no rival faction can claim the throne. But that delay has a cost. There is no consolidated leader speaking for Iran in this crisis. The IRGC, Mojtaba Khamenei, the Assembly of Experts, and the civilian political factions are all competing for post-war authority. Each faction has a different theory of how to respond to the seizure. Each faction has a different willingness to escalate. This means the Iranian delegation arriving in Islamabad on Monday may not have full authority to accept terms on behalf of the Iranian state. Any agreement they sign could be rejected within hours by a rival faction in Tehran. The United States is negotiating with a regime that is itself in the middle of a succession crisis. That makes a lasting agreement potentially impossible. Regardless of what either side says publicly, the Iranian negotiators may be authorized to sign. They may not be authorized to deliver. This is the situation Henry Kissinger once described as the most dangerous in international affairs. A regime that cannot speak with one voice. A counterparty that does not know which faction it is actually negotiating with. Decisions made in good faith on one side become null on the other before the ink dries. In this environment, even successful diplomacy can produce escalation, because each side believes the other has broken an agreement that was never fully agreed to in the first place. And that is the part that almost no one in the public conversation is talking about. Because it is the part that means even a successful negotiation may not stop the war. Now zoom out. Every great war of the modern era has a moment that historians later identify as the trigger. The shot in Sarajevo, the invasion of Poland, the fall of Saigon. In the moment, these events looked like one more incident in a long chain of incidents. Only later did it become clear that the chain itself had reached its breaking point. Ship seizures sit in this category. They are the kind of action that, in the moment, looks survivable, manageable, containable, and then, in retrospect, becomes the line between before and after. A single ship was seized this morning. Its crew is now held on a U.S. Navy vessel somewhere in the Persian Gulf. Oil prices are already rising. Markets are already shaking. Two nations that couldn't make peace in 21 hours of talks are about to try again in a room that now has one more hostage in it. History says seizures like this don't end wars. They start them. And the next